I'm going to blow through these. It's not that much, so if you just bear with me. Okay, the whole point of this, of that Jeff unit, is so you'll be able to fill up your car in your house if you have a natural gas car. And if we can get people, the manufacturers, to make biofuel cars, the EPA finally loosened the rules to allow biofuel cars, okay, and encourage biofuel cars. Biofuel cars, just like the one I had in Brazil, where your primary tank is CNG, and you have a pony tank so that you never stop. Okay, well, that's going to eliminate the problem of people feeling range-bound, like, oh my gosh, I've got this little Nissan Leaf, but what if I run up and go beyond the 90 miles, you know, and I get stuck, and I'm on I-10, what am I going to do? Well, if you've got the gasoline tank, you don't have to worry about that. So if you consider the average car is driven 12,000 miles a year, the average family has 2 cars, that's 24,000 miles a year. According to Jordan and the EPA, in 2009, the average American vehicle, that's everything from Hummers down to Priuses, is 22.4 miles to the gallon. At a price of $4 a gallon, if we could deliver the CNG at $2 at your home or even at a station, which we know we can, then for the average family, that's $2,150 in savings. But if you consider that in order to have $2,150, because you pay taxes, you gross that amount up, you really have to make, you're really saving people $2,800 bucks, because that is after-tax dollars, and you have to pay taxes to have the $2,150 to spend at the gas pump, so you really had to make $2,800. That $2,800 is 14 times bigger than George Bush's, here's $200, please vote for me, one-time tax credit. This is a forever thing, okay? So let's move forward real quick. Okay, this is, just on May 24th, you all may or may not have seen this, but the President basically signed a memorandum, executive order, basically mandating that as of the end of December 2015, that the whole federal fleet needs to be switching over to alternative vehicles. So he's not picking a technology, but I strongly believe that natural gas will be the technology that wins most, if not all, that business, and especially the post office. And Jordan and I are already working with trying to help the post office out, because they certainly need it. Okay, next page, real quick. All right, the current legislation, House Resolution 1830, this, you can just look at your thing. It quickly, this is just highlights the major elements of all the tax credits that are offered, you know, in order to incentivize this industry. This is the one that Boone Pickens is pushing, okay? I'll just let you all read that on your own, okay? Next slide. And let's see. This is a little bit more, this has to do with the infrastructure, you know, the credits for building these stations, home fueling credit, $2,000 a unit. So if we build it for $3,000, the net cost is $2,000. And then there's a 50-cent per gallon of gas equivalent or gallon of diesel equivalent credit. That 50 cents goes to the seller. But if the seller's a nice guy like we are, we're going to pass some, maybe not all of that, we're going to pass some of that savings to our customers. Okay? Next slide, Jordan. Real quick. Now, that's the bill that's being proposed. I've been camped out in Washington, talking to U.S. senators left and right, and having good traction. It's like, hey, why don't you change the name? Why don't you make the name, if you want to get reelected, make the name more appealing to your voters. Instead of calling it the Natural Gas Act, which sounds like a big gift to Boone Pickens or the industry, call it the American Energy Independence Act. And wouldn't it be cool if the President actually signed that on July 4th, you know, Independence Day? Okay, quickly, what this is about is it's everything that was proposed before. But the problem with the bill that was proposed before, and a very conservative Republican senator told me, I co-sponsored the bill last year, but the political situation is I can't co-sponsor the same bill as it was written last year, this year, because all the budget hawks are saying it's a giveaway. So I said, well, okay, Senator so-and-so, I'm going to go back and solve that problem. So what I came up with is something what I call revenue neutral, where you start off, okay, I wish I had a graph, but all the value of the incentives, whatever incentives are paid out, first of all, we'll go out 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, we're going to take the incentives that are currently proposed and cut them in half. The purpose of doing that is that incentivizes people to act quick. If you want the full tax credit, you better buy fast. So that actually serves as a catalyst to accelerate the implementation. Okay? Then after 5 more years, it goes away completely. Then what we do is we add a 25-cent per gallon surcharge over and above the federal tax, over and above whatever state road tax. Instead of paying $4 for gasoline, if it was today's dollars, you'd pay $2.25. You're going to pay $2 is going to include the federal tax and the state tax that you're currently paying, say in the typical state. But if you add that extra quarter, now it's $2.25. You're still saving $1.75. But the purpose of that extra quarter is that extra quarter is going to stay on there until such time that every bit of the incentives that were taken by the industry and by people that got the tax credit for buying an NGV, if you sum the area under that curve of all those incentives, and you leave that 25 cent on, and now you got millions and millions of drivers, eventually the area under the curve where you're paying it back equals the area under the curve where, you know, of the money that the Treasury left on the table by offering these incentives. At that point, the program is completely paid for itself. At that point, the 25 cent per gallon surcharge goes away. And this program, there's no tax incentives. Millions of people will be doing this, and it didn't cost the Treasury a nickel, because we're paying that money back with interest, okay, with the government's cost of capital. This senator, whose name will remain unmentioned, said, "I'd never heard of something like that." I said, "Of course not," you know. And then I said to him, "You know what? If the natural gas industry can do this, then so should the ethanol people. So should the wind people. So should the solar people. Maybe if people realize that they've got to pay their tax, if they're going to get all these incentives, all these free gimmies, that they're going to have to pay them back, then maybe they'll figure out how to work their economic model so they don't need the incentives to start with." And he's like, "Yeah, maybe you're right." So next slide, I think we're almost done. So anyway, yeah, the whole point of this is the president 7 weeks ago gave a speech where he wants to reduce oil imports by a third, which would be roughly 3,000